Welcome. Hello, everyone. This is Biology B, Credit Recovery, and today we are covering Unit 3, Lessons 7 and 8, and we're looking at animals and then plants. Our objective today, we are going to distinguish between invertebrates and vertebrates. We're going to state the general characteristics of animals and give some examples. We're going to distinguish between non-vascular and vascular plants, and then interpret a phylogenetic tree and discuss the evolutionary relationships of plants and animals. Okay, and the state standards for today we're covering is diversity and interdependence of life. And remember, that is 1/4 of your state test. So let's begin with the kingdom Animalia. So all animals are classified in this kingdom, Kingdom Animalia, and these are eukaryotes, so they are in the domain Eukarya. And there are several characteristics of all the animals in this kingdom, right? They are all multicellular and eukaryotic. So all organisms in eukarya are eukaryotic, meaning they have a nucleus in their cells, right? Eu in eukaryote rhymes with do. So they do have a nucleus, and all animals are multicellular. All animals are heterotrophic and digest food inside their bodies. All animals can reproduce sexually, and animal cells do not have cell walls. Okay. All right, so the difference between vertebrates and non-vertebrates or invertebrates. Okay, this is a division in our animal kingdom. So a vertebrate is an organism that has a backbone, right? You have the vertebrae in your backbone, that is a vertebrate. So humans have a backbone, fish and birds, and along with that internal backbone, they have a skeleton. And that skeleton is called an endoskeleton. Here's that word, endoskeleton, meaning a skeleton inside their body. The other group are the invertebrates. They do not have a backbone, and they do not have that internal skeleton. These are things like insects, sea anemone, and worms. Okay. Invertebrates far outnumber vertebrates on Earth. Scientists estimate that 75% of multicell life on Earth belongs to just one invertebrate phylum, Arthropoda. Okay, these are arthropods, are insects. And they have an exoskeleton. All right, and we're going to divide our kingdom down further and into phyla. Okay, this is our next taxonomic group. Right, taxonomy is how we're grouping organisms. Okay, there are over 30 phyla in the animal kingdom. There are 9 that include the majority of the animals that we know of. Okay, so in our tree, the first branch is labeled sponges. So it tells you that the group of animals classified as sponges was the first group to diverge from the earliest common ancestor of all animals. Okay, we can see the sponges here. They are the first division. Okay. And then as we go, in each division shows the distance from the earliest common ancestor of each of these groups. Okay, this is a phylogenetic tree. Each division shows a common ancestor. Okay, so let's continue with our sponges. I can talk. They are porifera. right? And you can see that word pore in there. They are covered in pores. These were the first animals to evolve on Earth. And that porifera is from the Latin word for pores. And they feed by filtering microscopic organisms from the water through their pores. And they also have reproduction through those pores as well. Okay. They're sponges. Okay, next we have jellyfish and coral, and they are in the Cnidaria phylum. Okay. And Cnidaria comes from the Latin term nide or nettle. And you think about plants that have nettles, they're stinging. Okay. But these are not plants. They are animals. And they do have stinging structures called nematocysts. And these are specialized cells that contain a harpoon-like structure with a nerve toxin. So they sting, and in that stinger is a toxin. Okay. They have a simple body structure. It's just 2 layers of tissue, and inside the body is just a digestive cavity. Okay. They're simple organisms, jellyfish and coral. They do have stinging cells. All right, we just want to mention coral bleaching here. This is when we have damage to coral and coral death. Coral are animals, but they have this symbiotic algae. So they have an algae that they live with, and the algae and the coral help each other, and they need each other to stay alive. But when the coral is stressed, it can expel or get rid of its algae. And that can kill the coral because it is dependent on that algae. And this happens due to environmental changes, like changes in the pH of the water, changes in the temperature of the water, and this can kill whole areas of coral. And they call it coral bleaching because when the coral die, they lighten and become almost white, so it's almost like they were bleached. Okay. Symmetry, biological symmetry, right? This has to do with an animal's body plan. And right, first we're going to say bilateral symmetry, bi meaning 2. Okay. This is what we have as humans. We have symmetry around a single line. Okay, and you can see in this picture, it looks like a dragonfly here. We can draw a line right down the center, and it's like a mirror image on each side. Okay, so we have bilateral symmetry. Radial symmetry is where you have symmetry around a point, like in a sea star. So this sea star, we can cut it in half in any direction, and we are going to have 2 mirror image halves. Okay. And then asymmetry is when there isn't symmetry. So there is no place that you can cut it and have 2 identical mirror images. Okay. And that would be like our sponges. Okay. Next phylum are flatworms. Okay, and flatworms are simple invertebrates with flat bodies. Right? Flatworms, they have flat bodies. They have bilateral symmetry. So there's a single line down the center where you have each side is a mirror image of the other. Okay, so all flatworms have flat bodies. They have no true organ systems, and their gas exchange is just simple diffusion in and out of the cells. Okay, the flatworm or planarian that we're going to talk about quite a bit, we're going to use it as an example, is free living. It lives on its own. It doesn't require any other organisms, but many flatworms are parasites, and they must live in a host at least through part of their life. So flatworms such as flukes and tapeworms can cause serious illness in humans and other animals. So these parasites invade our bodies and can be damaging, can be deadly. Next phylum is mollusks, phylum Mollusca. These animals live in marine and terrestrial habitats. Marine meaning ocean, terrestrial meaning land. They are snails, clams, mussels. Octopus and squid are also mollusks. They have a muscular foot, soft body, and gills, and they also have a feeding tube, the radula, and they use it to scrape algae off of rocks. Okay. Most mollusks are covered with a hard shell, like in the snail and the clam. But others, like the octopus and the squid, they do have a shell, but it's just a tiny little structure inside their body. So you might not even realize that they do have a little shell. Okay. 5 main classes of echinoderms, that's our next phylum, are the echinoderms. These guys are spiny skin. They have a hard outer skeleton. They have a network of tubes in their body that make up a vascular system, like a water vascular system. And it helps them to move. They can squirt out water to propel themselves. They are bilateral when they're a larva, and then as an adult, they have radial symmetry. It's kind of interesting. Chordates are more closely related to echinoderms than any other phyla. Chordates have the spinal cord. So here's arthropods. There are many arthropods on the planet. They are the most abundant animals on Earth. These are insects, and they also include like lobsters and barnacles, spiders. Okay, they have that hard outer shell called the exoskeleton. Okay. On to vertebrates, these guys have that internal skeleton and the spinal cord. And we have more complex digestive systems and other systems. Okay. On to plants. First plants evolved around 400 to 500 million years ago. They all descended from a common ancestor, and that ancestor was able to perform photosynthesis. And they had many adaptations in order to live on land. They had to be able to control water. They needed more support to live outside of the water. Okay, they are all a part of the kingdom Plantae. Plants have special structures. They can have vascular tissue that's able to move water and minerals. They have seeds for reproduction. They have pollen, that is the male reproductive cells that can fertilize to create the plant embryo that's protected in the seed. Okay. Gymnosperms, they have a seed, but no other structure. Angiosperms, these plants produce flowers, and then their seed is protected inside of a fruit. Monocot plants have parallel veining. Dicot have reticulated or branched. Okay. Here's our summary for today for animals and